Hi, I'm Marty. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm going to teach you how to make French toast. French toast is basically toast that you sort of pan fry after it's been soaked in egg, milk, and a couple different spices that we're going to get into. It's not French. We'll talk about that at some point too, but we're going to get right into it. The first thing you are going to need is 3 eggs. And I'm doing this recipe for 4 slices of toast. So after, we're going to do 2 eggs actually. So the first thing you need is 2 eggs. And again, I'm making 4 slices of toast, but you can do more or less as you like. A lot of times I'll do like a whole loaf of bread if the bread's getting on like the last day or so where it would be good. And then I'll freeze them. So I usually make a really big batch. So 2 eggs. I'm going to do 1/4 cup of milk. 1/4 cup. Pour that right in there. If you've already watched us make scrambled eggs, you know that this is pretty similar to scrambled eggs so far, but they're a little different. And here's where they're going to get different. Next, we are going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So just a teaspoon. And that's going to help with the flavor of the toast. We are going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I'm just going to take a teaspoon and get right in there. If you want to eyeball it, you can just sprinkle it too, if you don't want to use a teaspoon. I really like cinnamon, so I tend to go a little on the heavy side. I have a friend who doesn't like cinnamon at all, so she tends to use a lot less. And then you don't have to, but I'm going to add some nutmeg to mine too. I'm going to do probably like 1/4 teaspoon about. Then the last ingredient, which you might not expect, is black pepper. That we want kind of pepper that's already ground up like that. And we're going to do 1/4 teaspoon. And that's just going to add a little bit of a different layer to the flavor. And again, 1/4 teaspoon is plenty. And then we are going to break the yolks like we did for scrambled eggs, and we're just going to mix it on up. It's going to look kind of gross, that's fine. So I'm going to talk about this more once we are making the toast, but French toast has a lot of different names in different cultures. And one of them is based around the Italian word zuppa, which means soup. Basically soup bread, which makes sense if you're looking at it. So yeah, it doesn't have to be perfectly mixed. You just want it on the more even side. So yeah, that's perfect. And again, like if you want to make more, you can add more of each of those ingredients. You can play around with it, so it's like more cinnamon, less cinnamon. Like you can see, I like a lot of cinnamon. Mine's really dark. But other than that, it's really about figuring out what flavors you like. So next, I'm going to turn my pan on. I'm going to turn it on about medium. And I'm going to put about 1 tablespoon of butter in that pan to start with. And if you watch the scrambled egg video as well, you know that when you're looking at a stick of butter, there's these lines on the side that kind of tell you where the tablespoons are, so you can slice it. And stick of butter is about 8 tablespoons. And we're going to do about 1 tablespoon in the pan for each slice, so we'll use probably about 1/2 stick of butter. Alright, so yeah, I'm just using basic like sliced white sandwich bread. You can use whatever type of bread you want. You can use white bread, wheat bread. You can even use like a cinnamon raisin bread if you wanted, something like that. A lot of times when I see it at the store, I didn't today, but a lot of times I'll get like Texas toast, which is that thicker bread, because it has a little more oomph to it. And again, honestly, the way that I usually make it is if I have bread that's like on its way past like expired, basically, that, you know, not quite stale, but about to be before I can use it, I'll just make it into French toast and freeze it. So alright, yeah, that's melting along. So what we are going to do next is we're going to take our slices of bread. I'm going to move, you want to have a plate to the side so you can put them right on the plate as soon as they come out of the pan too, which is why I have that guy. So, excuse my stovetop. as that's getting ready, I'm going to take one slice of bread at a time, and I'm going to stick it in the bowl. And using my fork, I'm going to push it down so it's submerged. It's going to be kind of heavy. This one got a lot of cinnamon on it. This one's going to be very cinnamon heavy too. But yeah, you don't want to leave it in too long, especially if it's like thinner bread like this, because it can fall apart once it starts to get too wet. Then I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to put it in the pan. I'm going to let that heat up. And what's happening when you make French toast is that the egg is cooking. So as it's cooking, it is basically in the same way that you would make a cake or something like that. It's changing the structure of the bread inside a little bit, that it's kind of toasting it and holding it together differently. It's holding that cinnamon in place, it's holding the pepper and the vanilla that we put in place too, so it's basically a way to just grill bread with a little bit extra in it. And I like French toast too, because I feel like French toast kind of gets lumped together with like pancakes and stuff like that a lot. It's like a sweet, like, you know, super sugary breakfast thing or something like that, but it's actually not that bad when it comes to like, you know, nutritious value and things like that, because like you saw what we put in it is like milk, eggs, vanilla, cinnamon, pepper, and I put a little bit of nutmeg. That, you know, there's no like added sugar or anything like that. It's pretty much just relying on like the flavor of those spices for it, and you have a little bit of protein from the eggs and from the milk too, so, you know, it gets lumped together with pancakes a lot, but it's basically toast with eggs and milk in it, and flavor. And then, you know, once you start to add syrup and stuff to it, that changes the game a little bit. But you can eat it by itself. What I like to do a lot of times is if I make something called lemon curd, which maybe I'll do a video about. It's a little complicated, so probably not. But if I make lemon curd and I'm going to run out of time to eat the lemon curd before it goes bad, I'll make French toast and I spread it on that. It's good. You know, with peanut butter, jam, whatever you want. Or again, just by itself. So yeah, we can see that butter starting to bubble up a little bit, which is good. So we're going to keep that in our frying pan. And what we really want is we want that egg to cook through all the way. Which honestly is more of a struggle when the bread's thicker, like if you're using Texas toast. Whereas when the bread's thin, this is going to go pretty quickly. Especially as our pan heats up even more. So I'm going to peek under the edge a little bit. Yeah, that still needs like a minute before we flip it. So while we're waiting, I went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole earlier because I wanted to know. I knew French toast wasn't French, but I didn't know where it was from. Turns out the first instance of a French toast recipe is from the 4th century, so the like 300s, in a Latin cookbook. And I forget how you say it in Latin, and I'm not trying to summon like a sugar demon in my kitchen right now, so I'm not going to try. But the recipe was literally just called Another Sweet Recipe. I wrote it down over there. Another Sweet Dish. And, man, to be the kind of person who gets to write weirdly vague cookbook entries, another sweet dish. But yeah, it exists in a lot of different cultures too, in like different forms, like everything from, you know, like Germany to Italy to Mexico, like all sorts of different places, and it has kind of a different name in each one too. Yeah, so that's starting to get nice and good. So we're gonna flip it. And you can see how that egg cooked and kind of left like, almost like when you make a fried egg, how it looks like browned around it. You can squish it down if you want. I wouldn't, because you're kind of going to end up with like, it's all kind of condensed. Number one, it's not going to cook right. And number two, it's just going to end up kind of soggy. But yeah, some of the different names that I found for it were golden bread, eggy bread, that zuppa bread that I mentioned before, poor nights, which is one that I did not expect, furry bread, and the actual French for it, I don't speak French, but the actual French for it was like pomme perdu, which I guess means like lost bread or sunk bread, which makes sense, I guess, sinking into the egg mixture. That it's really popular in New Orleans, which is where my sister lives. And New Orleans has pretty deep French roots, so there it's called that, pomme perdu, as well. pretty tasty. And I'm just flipping this back and forth to make sure it gets cooked evenly. As you know, once it gets to a certain heat, you're in the clear, but nothing worse than biting into French toast and just kind of getting that like mouth of like uncooked egg. Yeah, that's pretty good. And if you like it crispier, you can keep going. I'm gonna stop that right about there. So you can see like it's brown on both sides. Having struggles picking it up. Whoop! All right. Yeah, you can see it's brown on both sides. Nice and crispy, but it's not burnt. Perfect. So I'm gonna take a little more butter. Another tablespoon or so. Plop that right in the pan. Plop that right in the pan. I don't know why I'm having trouble getting stuff off the spatula today. Off and on. Alright. And this pan gets pretty smoky pretty quickly. That's not a French toast thing. That's my pan kind of stinks thing. But I'm going to give that another stir just to get it in there evenly. Get my piece of bread in there. And yeah, remember when I was like, I'm going to use 2 eggs instead of 3. I think we're just going to make it. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, our pan's hotter than the first one, so this one will cook a lot faster. Yeah. You can even see how it's already cooking. I'm going to turn the heat down just a touch, because I don't want it to burn. Yeah. You can see like that cinnamon in there too, and as the egg is cooking. And part of that brownness is from the butter on the pan as well. And the leftover butter from the last one as it browned. Another thing that I like to put on French toast is if I have bananas that are like not quite banana bread level yet, but still maybe a little rougher than just like eating a straight up banana, I'll slice them up in a pan with a little bit of brown sugar, which again, where we get that sweetness is usually what's on top of the French toast. But I'll do like a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of vanilla, and just like basically quickly like saute them in the pan and and it comes out really good. And then I'll like spread that on them. Another sweet dish. Imagine if just all desserts were another sweet dish. Like, oh, what kind of cake do you want for your birthday? No, another sweet dish. Like, yeah, but which one? Alright, perfect. Yeah, and that one did cook a lot faster. So that side's a little lighter than the other one. I'm going to leave it on there for just a touch longer. Man, we could use a new frying pan. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, better. Awesome. Gonna do a little more butter. Again, just about a tablespoon. Pop that in there. Anytime you're cooking with butter in a hot pan where it's going to sizzle up like that too, you want to be cognizant of like where you're putting your arms. Because there are few things worse than getting burned by hot butter. It stinks. I have been there. I do a lot of cooking and a lot of baking, and I tend to get like one, like this hurts for longer than 5 minutes style burn per calendar year. I already got one for this year, and I'd like to keep it at 1. Alright, yeah. As you get to the bottom of your egg mixture too, you'll see like I just did with that one, where the egg whites will start to kind of clump together a little more, so you'll get those like pieces that are hanging off more and more. Yeah. My burn for this calendar year was so incredibly foolish, too. Sally, who sold me the camera, was there. Our other housemate, Elliot, had made tea on that back burner. This one. And I had put something in the microwave, which is right there. And after I put it in the microwave, I went to lean on the stove, like trying to be all cool or whatever. Cool for my popcorn, I guess. And yeah, I watched them make tea, and then I leaned with my hand like fully on a burner that was still super hot. Our stovetop has these buttons that tell you when it's hot too, with the lights. That was foolish, and it really, really hurt. So don't be like me. Be careful with where you're putting your hands. Yeah, that one got a little dark, but that's okay. It's still gonna be delicious. And it can be kind of hard to tell like how dark it's getting too, with especially if you use as much cinnamon as I do, because like that's not burnt, that's cinnamon that's cooked into it. That's a little burnt. It's all about finding the difference between, you know, brown and burnt. I'm just moving around the pan where the butter is, trying to keep that smoke down. Yeah. And again, if you like your French toast crispier, you can keep it on longer. You can even do it in like a grill pan. I've made French toast in the oven before too, where like I put it on like baking sheets and then flipped it halfway through. I didn't like it that way as much because I felt like the consistency was almost like too even. But if you're trying to make like a bunch really quickly, like I don't know if you're like trying to make like, if you have friends coming over once it is safe to do so, and you're trying to like make like a big meal or something, like that'd be a really fun way to do it really quickly. And if you were going to do it in the oven, I would soak the slices, get a sheet pan, butter it really, really well, and put it like, probably like 350 for like 10 minutes on one side, and then like flip them and do another 5. And I am making that up right now off the top of my head. Just that is what I would do if I was trying to experiment with it. So don't quote me on that. That was more than a tablespoon. But yeah, we are down to 1 slice. We're going to get that guy in there. And as your bowl is getting to the bottom of your egg milk mixture, you're kind of going to probably end up sopping it around a little bit, so like moving it around almost like when you have soup and you're moving like a chunk of bread around to get the last little bits. Hence, zuppa bread. So yeah, like that's a clump of egg white. Is that like gooey part, which is not bad. Egg white's actually pretty good for you. But it's just the consistency difference. It's not really gonna make a difference once it's like cooked either. It just looks a little funky. Yeah, I'm tearing mine up a little bit. That's fine. I'm gonna, if you have a side that's like more wet, if you have a side that's like wetter than the other, I would put that one down first. Because you're going to want that one to cook for longer. There's an Irish superstition about the ugly piece, where basically anytime that you have like, you know, for French toast it would be like that last piece that has less like even mix on it, or like if you, I don't know, like if you made brownies and you had to like take one out at a weird angle and it like fell apart or something, that'd be the ugly piece. And basically the superstition is just that it's lucky. I don't know how much I believe in that. I think it is to make whichever kid ended up with that one feel a little better about the fact that they got the ugly piece, but you know, I'll take the ugly piece. It still tastes the same. The ugly piece, not the gross piece. Yeah, flip that over. Yeah, so that got really, really dark. And that's partially from the buildup of the butter, which is what's smoking a little bit right now. And partially just because the egg white cooked really, really quickly. I'm going to turn my heat completely off, actually, for this last, like, minute on this one. I'm going to keep moving it to try and keep it even. Yeah, you can see, like, that with less of the topping on it, with less of the mixture on it, is going to end up looking a little more like regular toast than French toast. That's fine. It's the ugly piece. still sizzling like that when you flip it over, that means that there's still wetness to it. So you probably want to leave it for like another like 30 seconds if it's still like sizzling. You don't want it completely off because like that's like butter that's sizzling a little bit there. You don't want it to completely dry up until it's like crispy and burnt. Maybe you do. I don't know. I'm making a lot of generalizations, but that way it'll leave a little bit to it. Alright, that one's good. So we're going to stick that to the side. I'm going to take our pan and we're going to cut for a sec because I'm going to wash this off before it keeps smoking. So, awesome. Yeah, you can see how the coloring is pretty consistent throughout the whole thing. Again, those kind of darker parts are both butter, a little bit of the egg, and the cinnamon and nutmeg kind of baked into it as well. And yeah, you can eat it by itself. You can put everything from like syrup to peanut butter to Nutella, whatever you want on it. And that is how you make French toast.